Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and today we're taking a look at the TiVo Stream 4K. A lot of you were excited about this device, as was I, because it's relatively inexpensive at about $50, and it's running Android TV. And I know a lot of us have been looking for a nice little Android TV box for some time. I've been looking for one for the last 4 or 5 years that can provide some of the functionality that I'm looking for. And unfortunately, this is yet another failed attempt at bringing us a decent 4K streaming device running Android TV. Maybe it'll improve in the future, but at the moment, I'm going to tell you right out of the gate here, don't buy it if you were looking for a secondary Android TV device or even a primary one. It's just not good. But we're going to step through all the reasons why it's bad and then look at some of its differentiating features here in just a moment. But I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that I paid for this, unfortunately, with my own funds. All of the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, nor is anyone reviewing or approving what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what's wrong with this 4K streamer. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. This is a dongle-style streaming box, which means you connect it to your HDMI port and it just kind of hangs out like this. I'm not crazy about this design, primarily because it does put some weight on the HDMI port, and that could create issues on that port over time. In fairness, TiVo is not the only one making devices styled like this, but these dongles are getting heavier and heavier, and those ports really aren't designed to support much weight. So I would suggest looking at getting an HDMI extension cable, which might give you the ability to alleviate that pressure and also get better Wi-Fi reception, given that you could move the box here out from behind your television. Speaking of Wi-Fi, it's got 802.11 AC built in, 2x2, so it should do fine for Netflix and Disney Plus and all the other 4K streaming services, so that was good to see on there. It is powered by an AM Logic S905Y2 processor. It has 2 gigabytes of RAM, which isn't all that much these days, and only 8 gigabytes of onboard storage. It doesn't have much for ports. You just have a power connector here in the back. That is a standard micro USB connection, 5 volts, 1 amp. Now your TV's USB port should be able to power this. It doesn't require that much power. Should it not work reliably, you've got the AC adapter here in the box that you can use. Now, I did like the remote. It looks nice. It's a little more robust than your typical cheap Android box remote might be. You've got the TiVo button here, which takes you to the TiVo app, which we'll explore in a few minutes. They've integrated some things with Sling TV, so I'll show you how all of that works through TiVo's proprietary software. You also have, of course, given that this is an Android box, the Google Assistant. So if you have it attached to your Google account, it will work with all the other stuff in your house with voice commands through the remote. We'll demo that in a little bit as well. Down here, of course, Netflix has paid for their real estate. You got some numbers here for using other devices. Altogether, not a bad remote here for the money, but that, again, is really the only thing that I found to like here about this box. Now, before we go too much further, I want to outline all of the issues that I ran into with this box, trying to do some of the things that I do on my other Android TV devices. The first is that I was unable to get Ethernet working, even though it's got a USB Type-C port here. I plugged in a bunch of USB-C network adapters that I have here around the house. All of those work with Android typically. They don't work here. They do light up, which tells me that there's something getting recognized properly when it connects, but the operating system on here just doesn't allow Ethernet to be used at all. And that's a big strike against it, especially if you're using Plex like I am, because you're often pushing high bitrate movies over your network, and Wi-Fi just isn't good enough for that. And unfortunately, you can't get the Ethernet working on here, at least at the time I'm recording this video. A couple other problems in Plex that I ran into beyond the networking issues is that it will not switch down into 24p mode, even if you do ask it to switch frame rate for 24p movies. It will not change the resolution either, even if you ask it to do that. It also doesn't support pass-through audio for some of the lossless audio formats that we like to play with. So there was no Atmos True HD going on with this, although it does work with Atmos on the streaming services. It also didn't work with DTS HD either, so that was another problem. Another issue, there's many, is that when you turn it on, it will switch itself into HDR mode if you have an HDR 4K TV, but it never leaves that mode. And it doesn't switch between modes either. So for example, I plugged it into my OLED TV upstairs. It switched itself into Dolby Vision, which was great. But then when I played back some non-HDR content on Netflix, like Star Trek Voyager here, it left the Dolby Vision on. Likewise, if I tried to go to some HDR10 content, it didn't switch out of Dolby Vision over to HDR10. It is HDR all the time, which means that a lot of stuff is not going to look right on here. And that was another strike against the box. And one other thing of note, when you are setting up the device, you do of course need your Google account to get Android TV up and running, but you also need to set up a TiVo account. And if you don't set up that account, you can't use the box at all. Now, if you're still with me, I did want to show you some parts of the interface that I thought were of interest. The interface on its own is just standard Android TV, but they have an app here called TiVo Stream. And this is unique, I believe, to this device. This is linked up with Sling, which is a subscription TV service that gives you kind of cable TV over the internet. It's not inexpensive for that service, but they do give you a 7-day trial with the box here to play around with it. And they've actually neatly integrated some of the live TV that you might want to watch along with other streaming services that you might be using. And what you do, similar to other TiVo devices, is give the device a list of shows that you like. And what it will do is it will keep an eye on things happening over the air along with some of your favorite subscription services, and it's going to sort your list of favorite shows out by whichever show has the newest episode. So if you don't want to miss anything, you put it into your My Shows, and it will put those shows front and center when they get a new episode, whether it's on the air or through Netflix or Amazon Prime or something. So I thought that was kind of cool. The over-the-air, though, is limited only to the Sling service, not anything else. So that is a bit of a limiter there. If you're not using Sling and using YouTube TV instead, you're not going to get this tight integration. But if you are using Sling, you can set up the show here, and what it's going to do is record it through the Sling virtual DVR. And as episodes get recorded, I'll be able to find it right here, or I can dive into Prime Video and go through the back catalog. So I thought that was kind of cool. The universal search here, though, isn't all that great. It doesn't support that many streaming services. So if you go into the list of supported streaming accounts here, you can have Sling, Netflix, HBO, Amazon Prime membership, which is your Prime account, along with Prime Video, which is what you pay on an individual basis per show or per movie. It supports Hulu, Disney Plus, and Google Play, and that's it. So if there's another service that has your favorite show, it's not going to get that content aggregated into this. Another thing I didn't like about it was that I couldn't separate my content from my wife's content. So if I just wanted to see my shows versus hers, I can't do that here either. Now, it also integrates the Sling service into a program guide here. So for example, if I go to the guide option, I can see all the things happening on the Sling service. And then TiVo has their own thing called TiVo Plus, which is similar to some of the other ad-supported free services like Pluto and Tubi. So you get a lot of content even if you don't want to subscribe to Sling that you can watch here, but not all of it's that great. And again, you can get the same experience if you just load up Pluto or Tubi or some of the other free services that we've covered before. The cool thing, though, is that if you are just hanging around in the interface here, you can hit the guide button here at the top, and that will bring you directly to the guide, and you can start watching stuff. You can set things to record through Sling if you want, and you get a pretty neat interface. But every once in a while, it'll dump you out of this interface and send you over to Sling. So it's not completely integrated inside of this just yet. And like I said, there's a lot of potential here, but it doesn't feel like it's all there just yet. But I do like the fact that it can keep track of your favorite episodes and let you know when something's new across all of these different services along with over-the-air stuff. But I do wish it supported more over-the-air kinds of services versus just Sling. Now, as I mentioned, it also supports the Google Assistant for voice searches, so I can push down the button here and say, show me the weather in New York City today. And that, of course, will give us the standard Google response to that. I can also search for shows. I can say, show me Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And then we'll get Deep Space Nine loaded up here. Now you'll see it says open, and if I select open here, it will bring me over to that TiVo app we were just looking at, and then I can add this to my list of favorite shows, and then Sling will record it, and I can find it on Netflix and other places, for example. So kind of a neat integration there. It all seems to work pretty nicely. Another thing that this will work with is the Chromecasting feature. So this can also double as a Chromecast. Let's check that out real quick. All right, so we've got my HBO Go app loaded up on my phone, and in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that there's a little Chromecasting icon. If you click on that, you'll see there at the bottom of the list, we can connect to the TiVo here like we would a Chromecast device. And what's nice about HBO Go here is that it doesn't work on the device natively. Comcast doesn't allow HBO Go to work from an Android TV box for some reason, but you can load it up on your phone and Chromecast it over. And the reason why I like to test out HBO is because they have copy protection on their content. And I found a lot of the cheaper boxes that we've tested will let you Chromecast YouTube, but something like HBO doesn't work. But as you can see here, everything is popping up here on the TiVo, and all is good from a Chromecasting standpoint. So you shouldn't have any issues there playing back Chromecast content. Now, this is not going to be a gaming powerhouse. We did run the 3D Mark Slingshot benchmark test and got a score of 525. That puts it just slightly above the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K and below the Amazon Fire TV Cube. The Shield TV is scoring 5,076. So as you can see, the NVIDIA product is still the one to get if you're looking to play games. This will run a lot of the casual Android TV games, and you can probably do some 8 and 16-bit emulation on here, but that's going to be about it. So overall, you know, it is what it is. It's not a great box. I think they can make some improvements through software, which I hope they do, because at the moment, this is just not something I can recommend to people that are looking for secondary Android TV boxes. I'm having a lot of trouble with Plex. It's locking in those HDR modes, which is problematic and giving subpar quality to non-HDR content, or perhaps putting content into the wrong HDR color space. So they've got work to do here, and I'm hoping they do make some improvements to make this a little better. The TiVo app, though, has some potential for me. I like the idea of having all of my shows loaded up in a spot, and I can go there and see if there's anything across all these different services that might be new. But the problem is TiVo is so integrated with Sling TV, I think it's going to lessen the value of this for people that might be using some other service to get their cable TV content, for example. So it's just limited to me, and it's just not worth the money at this point. I think if they made some improvements to make this a better Android TV box, I'd be a little more enthusiastic. But right now, it's just too limited for me, and I think for a lot of other people too. So skip this for now, but let's keep an eye on it and see if it improves in the future. If it does, we'll come back and take another look. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters, the Four Guys with Quarters podcast, Tom Albrecht, Rick Vestudo, Chris Allegretta, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/s.